dad killed himself when I was 14. Kid's dad killed himself too.
What motivates you to have 10 children? How many car seats?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's try to understand, how do you feed kids? One moment of life that you regret the most?
I wish I wouldn't have made that move.
She mentioned that you raised 10 children.
Yeah, still raising.
Yeah.
Half of them are adults now.
Okay. And then you have like 5 grandkids. Is that
Yep.
correct? Okay. How was your childhood like?
I grew up with a single mom. I'm the middle child of 5, and we moved around a lot. I moved 23 times by the time I turned 18. You know, we'd live somewhere for a year, sometimes a little longer, and then move. And I moved around a lot when I was a young adult because I left home early just to do my own thing. And so I moved around a lot during that time.
How did it impact you as a person?
I make friends really easily. I'm very personable. Everybody loves me.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing. Like, I don't meet very many people who just genuinely don't like me because I can connect with literally anyone. And I love this sharing of stories and sharing of experience and wisdom. And
Right.
so I can connect with anyone. And I think that partially is a product of who I was born as and my upbringing, right? Is it nature or nurture?
Right.
Right? So I think it's both.
Spend a lot of time outside of the house, hanging out with friends or go somewhere random places, and
Just so you don't have to deal with that.
exactly
Yeah.
try to avoid the situation. With that, like, I talk with a lot of people because when you are 17, 18, you want to be heard.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, right? Whoever it is, people need to be heard. So I go out and meet different people, and that actually helped me to relate with different people. You know? Yeah. And then you said that there was a good part and then like a bad part about it.
I just kind of had to deal with my own stuff. I had to raise myself in a lot of ways. My dad killed himself when I was 14. And I hadn't been around him for like 7 years, maybe once a year, because he lived in Idaho and we lived here in Utah. And so I didn't see him very often. And yeah, that was rough. That was a rough transition for sure. I think he had borderline personality disorder, knowing what I know now, because my kid's dad killed himself too in March of 2016, and he had borderline personality disorder. It's the highest suicide rate of any mental health diagnosis that there is, because there's no medication for it.
Right.
And knowing what I know now, they didn't have that diagnosis back in 1994 when my dad died. But I mean, back in the 90s, for a man especially, there wasn't a lot of mental health help available, even though he was really reaching out for help.
Right.
So mental illness for both him and my kid's dad.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had a lot of grief, a lot of loss. We lost my grandson as well.
That's a tremendous amount of sadness.
Yeah, it's heavy. And what do? We laugh about it, honestly. We just get through it as best we can, and maybe it offends some people, but those are the people that haven't been through it. When my kid's dad died, I had a really, really hard time.
Right.
I was already doing the single mom thing. Just suddenly doing it on your own without support is tremendous.
Okay.
It's very heavy.
So you had 9 children with him?
Yeah.
Okay. How was the life with him?
He was very sick. He didn't work for a lot of years. And so I was the breadwinner as I was having all the babies. It's hard having him gone. And also knowing that if he was here, his mental illness, the way that it showed up, would disappoint my kids over and over and over. Like, it's one thing to grieve and do it mostly all at once, right? And then have the hard times like this come up as you talk about it. It's another to have my kids continually, yeah, right? I mean, you lived through emotional trauma at home. To do that to my kids over and over and over again versus having their dad be dead. I don't wish anyone dead. And in some ways, it's easier to handle day to day, you know? And it's so hard having him gone too. We miss him all the time. He's so funny. Yeah. Very charismatic. Most people with borderline are.
It's like, what motivates you to have 10 children?
I don't know. I don't know. Once you have a lot, you have a lot. Once you have 4, you might as well have 10. That's the reality.
Yeah.
A lot is a lot, right? It doesn't get crazier. It does get different, but it doesn't get crazier. I never saw myself having a lot of kids, honestly. Growing up, I grew up in a very religious upbringing that taught you that your job as a woman is to be a mother. And I heard that loud and clear. I was very excited about that. But I always felt like 4 kids is a lot and 5 is like, that's a lot. 6 is like, what is wrong with you? And all of a sudden I was pregnant with my 7th, you know, like I felt like we were supposed to have another girl, right? Whatever that means. And I talked him. So we had we have identical girls. They're 21 now.
So the first pregnancy was
yeah.
twin. Okay.
Yeah. And actually he adopted them, my kid's dad. Their biological father has never been in the picture. He left when I was early pregnant, before I even found out I was having twins. So I did that myself. Identical twin girls. And then we actually got married when they were 6 months old, and then he adopted them when they were 2. It took that long to get the paperwork in place because the father had disappeared and I didn't have any way to contact him. And this was like 2002, 2004, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have internet stuff we do now, you know? Yeah. And so we posted in the local newspaper, like, if you want to have anything to do with your parental rights, here's your notice, right? That's what we did back then. So he disappeared. So yeah, the other 7 biologically were with him. We had our 3rd one really quickly, right? 13 months after the girls, just right away. And then 2 years later, I had boy-girl twins. And I kind of talked him into those. He's like, we got 2 girls and a boy. Like, we're good. You know, we can be done. And I was like, and then I had a miscarriage. And I was like, I don't want to end my childbearing years on a loss. Like, that was really devastating. And I got pregnant right away with twins, which often happens. But they were fraternal. So I have boy-girl twins. So those are the 5 that are all adults now. We all survived it. Yay. Because I don't recommend having 5 kids in 3 years.
I mean, it's going to be like, how many car seats?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. 3 and then 5 car seats. Yeah. I had 3 in diapers for a lot of years.
Wow. So how did you manage it? Like, how did you...
A lot of help, honestly. I look back on that time and it was just survival mode. Really, that's when my mental health really started to tank. I have bipolar 2, and that's, I mean, pre-diagnosis, but that's the first time I had a plan. You know, that was hard times. And we got through it. Yeah, I don't, number 6, I kind of talked him into as well. And then we both felt like we were supposed to have another girl. And so, of course, it came out a boy. And then we had our other girl, and then we had an accident. And then I planned one more with a guy who'd never had kids before. And so now I co-parent with him. That's the one I divorced from.
Okay.
So 3 baby daddies, 10 kids.
Wow. That's a...
7 with one, 2 with the other, and 1 with the last one.
Right.
Yeah.
Try to understand, how do you feed kids?
Right?
Like... What did you feed? What did you feed them? No, really.
Whatever we could. I mean, when they're toddlers, they don't eat a ton, right? You know that. They're just like, eat off your plate or whatever. But as they get to be teenagers, it's harder. So my grandkids are... So Henry, my youngest, she became an aunt when she was 7 months old.
Wow. Yeah, that could happen, because
exactly.
Your daughter... had a baby like
7 months. Yeah, we were pregnant in the beginning. I was towards the end of my pregnancy, and she was at the beginning of hers in 2020.
Oh, wow. That's very special experience.
Yeah, but here's the thing that I've kind of figured out with, like, having kids. I can guarantee you have learned things about yourself that you wouldn't know if you did not have a child. Right?
One moment of life that you regret the most, I would say. When was it?
I really try not to live with regrets, so I wouldn't call it that. So when I was in high school, I moved away from home, almost on my 17th birthday. And I was set my senior year to be on the academic decathlon team, be drum majorette of the marching band. Like, my life was pretty good, you know, and I just up and left it on an impulse. And that's something that I wish I wouldn't have done, because I would like to see the other path, right? Like, how would that have looked if I had made that decision differently that day, that moment? And how would it have been different if my mom had come after me and said, whoa, you're 17. I know you want to go live with your aunt and your cousins, but legally you are my responsibility, so you need to live at home with me, which is what I did with my teenagers when they tried to move out, right? I said, no, nobody fought for me. Nobody came and said, I love you enough to chase after you and say, you belong here with me. Was it right? Was it wrong? I don't know. But I fought for my kids, ultimately. And I wish you would have fought for me. And I don't know if it was a cry for help or whatever, but I wish I wouldn't have made that move. It set me on a path that was really hard for a lot of years. A lot of years. And a lot of experiences that I wouldn't be who I am without. So I don't regret them because I am who I am because of them.
Right.
And I wish I could see how that path would have laid out if that was the fork in the road. You know, if I would have stuck with it and been consistent in the things that I was already successful in, instead of abandoning it all and choosing life of rock and roll. You know what I mean? Yeah, so here we are. My life is exactly as it should be because here is where I am.
Why do you think people are sad these days?
Screens.
Screens.
I think that's a big part of it. It's a lack of this. I think it's a lack of connection. It's a lack of understanding humanity. Because in my personal belief, we are all one, right? Like, it's a shared experience somehow. I don't know what that means. But I think a lot of people just get caught up in the social media aspect of things, right? With people's lives seeming so perfect, and
Which is not true.
it's edited. And the more you see the scrubbed version, the less you understand reality, especially if that is your only reality. Because if you have people who are living alone, people who don't have support systems, people who don't have ways to connect in the real world, and that's the only connection they have, it's not real. And just knowing that ending your life doesn't end the pain. It just transfers it to other people.
Yes. The problem is still there, but it radiates.
Yeah, it's a ripple, for sure.
If you have any advice to the world, what would that be?
Just be you.
Just be you.
Just be you. I think that's the best gift we have. I've honestly, for the last 10 to 15 years, I've been working so hard on settling into who I am and being authentically myself. And you're looking at it being in your 40s, you have a lot to look forward to, honestly. And I know you've interviewed people a lot older who have a lot more wisdom than I do. But every year it seems like it keeps getting better. I just get more comfortable with who I am and just figure out who you are and be that.
Right. It's kind of funny. When we were born, we are given with various aspects of personality, something good at, talent, personality. So for example, I was born in a character where I'm very outgoing. I like to make people happy, but some people are not born with it at all. You don't want to do anything with people. So it's a variation. Every person is a different, right? So I try to be someone that I'm not.
Right.
So I try to do things like that, but I know me.
Ultimately, you weren't happy with that because that's not you.
I wasn't. So the reason why I quit for the corporation job is because that's not me. I'm not a cutthroat guy. I can't really.
Can't play the politics.
Yeah. I can't really do buddy things. I don't even watch football.
Fake, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to talk about around the water cooler?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that's not me. I want to have a real relationship, with people.
And most of those people are probably so superficial.
Yeah.
Because they're playing the game. And they probably want to be authentic, but there's no space for that in that culture.
Yeah. You actually made me think a lot. And which is I love about, because this is the reason why I do, different life perspectives. And
you can learn something from everyone,
right?
All walks of life, whether you think you're better or less than, or anything in between. I think there's something to be gained from every interaction.
Right. Yeah, and thanks for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate being here, honestly.